Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. Welcome to the Grow Tent, everybody. You have found the best growing channel on YouTube, man. The place where we simplify the approach for you so everyone can learn how to grow. We make it so simple, even I can understand. So I'm going to listen and learn right now.
Woo! What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Grow Tent. We got a great episode for you today. Today we're going to be talking about how to make the best choices when you have plants that are asking for different things at different times. So you make sure you want to stick around for that. Super important info. But as always, first, we got to pay the bills. We got to do the intro to the channel, everybody's favorite part. Guys, if you haven't joined our Patreon yet, you should definitely check it out because the amount of ad revenue, if you can even call it that we get off YouTube is basically nothing since we are a Tana content channel. But you can find a link to that in the video description below. We got all kinds of really cool stuff, especially if you join in the VIP tiers. Guys, also remember, if you're looking for any kind of light, tent, anything of the sort, remember check out Mars Hydro and use code WTTGT at checkout. And they got all kinds of cool lights, tents. You know, I've been using their equipment for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. It always works great. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, watch the full video. All that kind of stuff actually really does help out the channel, especially when you hit that like button. It is much, much appreciated. Also remember, we have a merch store. We got some of the baddest merch on the planet, and it's almost all sold out right now. There's a few things left at the merch store at WTTGT.com. And yeah, you definitely want to check that out. Not much left, but the Patreons always get first grab at it, and they buy the hell out of it. So there's a few things left, not a ton. All right, let's get today's episode started right now. Woo! What's up, everybody? It's good to see you. It's good to see you guys. I've been getting a question that has been slipping through the cracks of me making a video on it because it didn't come to me as a question that I should make a video on, and then one day it just kind of slapped me in the face, and I was like, oh, why haven't I not made a video on this subject? And it's a lot of people, they like to grow different strains in their garden at the same time. Well, sometimes these plants want different things at different times, so it's always usually a help if we grow the same kind of plant, the same strain, cultivar, whatever you want to call it these days. At the same time, they're the same age. All these kind of things help us make that our decisions are uniform in the tent, and everything kind of wants the same thing at the same time. But today we're going to talk about, even when you have the same cultivar, the same strain, or even if you're in a different strain, sometimes the plants want different things at different times. How do we decide when the right time to turn our light up is, whenever some of our plants are asking for it, but not all of our plants are asking for it? How do we decide when's the right time to feed, when maybe some plants need it and some plants don't? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, because I get a lot of questions on it, and I figured I'd just make a video about it. So the first thing is, whenever we are trying to make decisions for our garden, whether it be light, feeding, watering, whatever, we're going to be doing it on what does the majority need, not the minority. I'm like, well, GT, what the hell are you talking about? All right, well, let's bring up our first point, or our first bullet point of, let's say, the lights. Let's say you have one plant that is praying all the time, and the rest of the plants are completely happy with the amount of light they're getting. So you might have one plant that wants more light, but the other 5 plants are happy. So what we do in these kind of situations is we make a decision based on what the majority of the garden needs, not the minority. We are not going to turn the lights up when only one plant is asking for more light and the other plants are not. So we will base all of our decisions on majority rule of what the garden actually needs. So if we have 3 plants that are praying and asking for more light, but we've got 2 plants that were happy, well, now we're making a decision based on what will get us the most amount of return at the end of this grow. Sorry. And by doing that, you get the best outcome, the best product, the best yield. All of it is the best because we're making our decisions based on what the majority of the tent needs, not the minority. So if 3 of the plants are asking for more light, 2 of them are like, yeah, we're okay, or maybe we don't want any more light, we're going to base our decision whether we turn the lights up based on what the majority of the garden is asking for. If it's the reverse and only 2 plants are asking for more light and 4 plants are saying that they don't want any more light, then we will not be turning the light up, because by turning the light up based on what the minority wants, it will end up costing you yield. The same principle will apply with feeding. The same principle will apply with, not really with watering, but we're going to talk about it's watering is kind of its own little section. We're going to talk about ways to work around it. But with lights, you're going to base it on the majority. We're going to do the same thing with feeding. I am not going to make up an individual feeding plan for each plant in the garden. They are all going to eat off of the same reservoir or the same mixture whenever I make it. I'm not making, a mix for 3 plants over here and 2 plants over here. It's not happening. I am not going to do that. It is insanity. So 1, I don't want to make up 2 separate orders of nutrients. 2 is it's not needed. So let's say we've checked the runoff ppm of our plants and they're all around 800, but there's one that's still at 1500 or 1600. So it wouldn't need food yet, but the other ones they've triggered one of the spots to one of our things to where it's time to feed the plants, because we hit runoff of 800 ppm. We are going to feed all of them. We will not just feed these 5 and not feed this one. We're just going to feed them and go on. That one will be fine. Remember, we're basing our decision off what the majority need, not the minority, and we're not making up separate food plans for the different plants. We're just not going to do it. Could you? Yes, but it's not necessary. You feeding the other plants all 500 ppm and the one that's got 1600 already, is it going up to 2100 going to break anything? No, it's not going to break anything. It'll be just fine. It'll save you a ton of work. You will be just fine. The only place where this doesn't really work is watering, because you can't be like, well, these plants over here don't need water for 2 more days, but this one right here needs water today. I'm going to wait 2 more days to water it. No, you can't do that. Oh, sorry, we're getting a, looks like our UPS man's here. Give me a break and we'll be right back. We'll be back in 2 and 2. That's what Chuck Woolery used to say. I'm dating myself right there, but I will I'll be back in a minute. Woo! Holy cow. My arms feel like Jello. That shit was heavy. Carrying in giant china cabinets out of a trailer. It's like 22 degrees outside, so your hands were all cold, and then your fingers were starting to hurt because the stuff was super heavy, and you gotta walk super slow, and it's super cold out. So I'm tired. I'm out of breath. But where were we? I think the last bullet point we were going to talk about is the only thing you can't really do this with is watering. And with watering, we make a slight adjustment to the way we water. So generally your plants that are closest to your big tower fan or whatever fan you happen to have down by the plants on the plant level, zone A, typically those ones that are closest to the fan, they will dry out quicker. So we can't do the watering thing when it's water by majority, because if you let a plant run out of water, it's going to die. And you'll end up costing yourself yield, because overwatering is a bad thing. Underwatering is also a bad thing. So we don't want to overwater or underwater. They're both bad. For you new people, you're going to overwater way more than you ever underwater. It's just the way it is. So whenever I am going to water, when it is a watering day, the way I compensate for this is in my runoff trays. If I'm normally watering till 10% runoff, the fans or the plants that are closest to the fan, I will usually water them to about 30% runoff. And I don't vacuum that water out. I let it sit there. And what you'll find is if these plants over here were drying out, 2 days faster than these plants on the other side, which are not closer to the fan, and we give these plants over here by the fan 30% water runoff and these plants over here 10% water runoff, you'll find that we have now balanced the equation. These plants will now, that are closest to the fan, since they have extra runoff in their runoff trays, in their drip trays, they will now dry out in the same amount of days as this one's over here. Now, this 30% isn't a standard answer. You have to kind of play with this yourself. Maybe it's only 20% runoff. Maybe it's Maybe it's 30%, maybe it's 45%, but generally 30% is a good place to start. But that is kind of like my only caveat up to the big three on, when to make decisions versus the majority versus the minority. You can't really do it with water, because otherwise you're going to be watering these plants on Monday and these plants on Wednesday, and then these plants over here now need to be watered on Friday again, and then these plants over here need to be watered on Sunday again. Ugh, nightmare. I want to water 1 to 2 times a week, tops. Generally, I try to do it in just 1 time a week until you get to halfway, 3/4 of the way through flower. Then you can be watering 2 times a week. There's not much you can do about it. But generally, I try to only do that stuff 1 time a week. As far as training go, I guess we could put it into another category. I do my training all 1 time a week, just the same. Pick a day. Saturdays is your training day, whatever. Lollipopping, just do it 1 time a week. So you're gonna go in there, you're gonna train everything 1 time a week. The only time that this doesn't work is during the stretch. You need to go in there every day to keep your canopy level under the scrog net. But that's how I make decisions for my garden. I make it on what does the majority of the garden need at this time, not what the minority of the garden needs at this time. I hope this tip helps you. If it did, maybe think about leaving the video a thumbs up. Super appreciated. Love all you guys. I'll see you guys next time. GT out.